And here we are again. It's friendly natter time. It's episode 6, and the faces keep changing, and I've gone all autumnal. This is a true story. I know it's backwards, but just go with it. Now, what are we here to talk about today? We're here to talk about the fact that it's getting closer, not close, closer to half term. You've had that wonderful beginning in September, because it's October now. So September's been and gone, and that halcyon month where everyone is trying to keep to the rules is over, and the chaos has begun. No, I might be hyping it up, but people are getting tired. People are getting stroppy. The nights are drawing in. The time until Christmas seems far away. I mean, let's face it, Sarah, we've only just had week 1 of Strictly. There's about 17,000 weeks of Strictly to go to Christmas. So we've got the issue of behaviour. So that's what we're here to talk about. When behaviour starts to break down, but more importantly, because we're parent-friendly schools, again, when is the right time, or how is the right way to bring parents into that conversation? So we've got Sarah again. Sarah's going to wave because apparently we're not allowed to wave on Teams, and that's all we've been doing ever since somebody told us we're not allowed to wave on Teams. We got fingers, we can wave. And this is Anna. We've all been teachers in our lives. I was an English teacher, Anna was an English teacher, Sarah did colouring in. She was a geography teacher. So, it's politically incorrect?
No, it was very neat colouring, very neat colouring.
I had educational colouring in ECI. It was highly recommended as an activity, especially close to Christmas. Anyway, back to the room. So, first of all, experiences of this time of year. What was it? How did it start to manifest itself when it was clear that the honeymoon was over?
You'd start to get 1 or 2 students that were beginning to get known in the staff room, known by the senior leadership team, known by the Senko, and some of those conversations needed to start taking place around, is there anything we don't know? Is there anything we need to find out? It's that detective hat again, trying to work out the best course of action to support.
I was one of the known ones, though, but that's mostly because I wanted to be centre of attention. I don't know if you felt that about me, but I didn't like that the teacher got...
It's that undercurrent of tetchiness. It's that it doesn't have to start big. It doesn't happen obviously always. There's a rumbling of angst and tiredness and worn downness.
Used to see it in the small things, like
exactly.
They wouldn't queue up quite as well to come in. There was a little bit more pushback when you asked them small things like to get a pen out.
I was going to bring the pen thing up. Yes, yeah. Exactly that.
And there's the general. I mean, we all taught teenagers, so
there's
general
a bit more attitude with it. Yeah,
became apparent in the room. So yeah, I think it was the slight erosion at the edges of all the habits you thought you'd trained into them.
And I think also, especially if you are talking about that transition, those year 7s are beginning to find their feet now. They're beginning to, they've worked out what they can and can't get away with. And they've also worked out if they don't quite fit in, whether or not they need an exit pass to get out. So actually, if they share something they shouldn't maybe, then they might get some additional attention, whether it's wanted attention or not.
All attention is good attention when you get no attention, though.
Yeah.
In the scheme of things,
I think it's when they're challenging. The initial power dynamics get set, and now is the point where those social power dynamics get challenged, and the new person comes in and goes, not as in new to the school, but as in someone new, fresh, who wasn't automatically looked at as a group leader or socially cool originally, goes, oh, it's my turn now, I think I can take this on, and upsets the apple cart a little, and things start getting tetchy. Yeah.
And also those young people who've managed to, I suppose, hold it together, do the rule thing. And then actually we start to unpick maybe some additional needs. Maybe that communication is actually there behind that behaviour, and it's actually, how do we support best? And often it's the parent who's got the information that can unlock some of that for us.
It is, and I mean, you were a Senko, Sarah, so you dealt with some of the more challenging behaviours that were an exhibition of like communicating the difficulty that they were facing, and seeing the behaviours as communication. I think was one of the things you said to me in a previous chat we had, which really stuck with me. But then there's the behaviour that is just because they're kids, because they're young, because they're being asked to be contained in an unnatural situation for people under the age of 16. And it's knowing the difference.
But it's also knowing the difference when, say, I don't know, I'll give you an example of a young man with ADHD. He was always sent to an outside location to stand outside this particular room. It was always a maths lesson he ended up out of. And it was always near a selection of bins. And actually, the thing he needed to do was release energy. So that was why the position was out of the way. But those bins took a tumble. Is that bin tumbling part of the behaviour, or is that him just getting to the stage of actually, right, what can I do that's actually a little bit of me getting a bit cross at school and showing them that actually I've had enough? And it's nothing to do with,
or just having so much physical pent up stress within his body, he has to let it out and that is seen as almost antisocial and challenging behaviour when it's just a physiological need that you had to expand out at that point.
Don't send him out to that location where he's got other things he can then cause chaos with, and then get in trouble
a productive
for that,
way,
as well as...
exactly, to release that. Yeah, like you said, Rach, it's about knowing the difference between whether the behaviour is an attempt to communicate or whether it's kids being kids, and that will go for whether they're 4 or whether they're 14. The knowing is not the easy part. It's the finding out that's important, and taking the time to find out, and having the empathy to not be reactive in that moment, and pause and ask the questions that are going to get you those right answers, which isn't easy for a teacher always, especially when they've been wound up.
And not always believe that actually the teacher is, and this might be really controversial on here, right, because they might not have made a really good judgment call. Like that example, not a good judgment call, they put them outside in that location. However, outside, fresh air, yes, but actually a bit more of a discussion. Don't give them anything that could then cause them to do something else, which then gets them in trouble. Because so it's actually thinking really carefully as the teacher, you know, what is your response, and actually how does that then support that child and not create further consequences.
I mean, I'd go controversial one step further and say that some of the colleagues, and I've had a long career, so this could be one of 400 teachers, so nobody's going to know, would set kids up to fail by giving them opportunity to make bad decisions. So it can go, but that comes in, and you know me, I'm my trending word of the month is empathy. And I also know that teachers are human, and teachers get tired. Teachers get upset and stressed, and the nights draw in, and they're always at school when the daylight is happening outside. And I think that's also a factor of why now things that maybe would have been passed under the radar before suddenly become super annoying. The tapping of a pencil on a table suddenly becomes something you want to give a consequence for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and also, you know, in the same way that kids might have things going on in their life outside of school that's impacting their behaviour or their tolerance or patience or their own empathy for other people in the class, so do teachers have lives outside of the classroom that may well involve things that are making them less tolerant, patient, empathetic, because they're dealing with their own stuff as well. And of course, then the third part of that is the parent as well, who we need to communicate with as teachers, but who also probably has things going on. So we're back to that empathy.
And the triangle that we've just described, which is the foundation of any strong construction. Not to take the metaphor too far, but it's the 3 points of the triangle that are going to make this work, isn't it? The communication between the child and the parent and the teacher, and the teacher and the child, and all ways round. So if we assume that there is a lot of potential petty stuff going on that we've all lost a little bit of tolerance for, both the kids who have lost tolerance for being bored, because not because the lessons are amazing and exciting, but because sitting 5 hours, they're children. And we get to some of the reasons where we might want to consider approaching the parents, and when that point is, and in what tone of voice we use when we're doing that. So let me give you a scenario. I've just had the worst lesson ever, lesson 5, Friday, boys, all boys. This isn't real, by the way. I'm just giving you the worst case scenario. They were year 9, just to make it even worse. They'd just had PE the lesson before me, so it also smelt. So imagine that lesson. It had all kicked off. I was furious. I was exhausted. It was Friday. I pick up the phone and I roar at the parent about how awful their child is.
Not going to achieve a lot, is it?
I just wonder what it feels like to be the parent. I mean, I'm not a parent, but so it's hard for me. But I can appreciate that the thing that you hold most precious, and it's hard to believe that somebody holds a 14-year-old adolescent boy as precious, but I'm sure they do. And that you're telling them they're the worst human in the world on a phone call. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
But also, that parent is left with that view of their child going into the weekend. They can't deal with that the following day by picking up the phone or coming into school, or so whatever that's going to then manage at home, you've sort of set that up for a couple of days before actually the child gets probably a break from that parent, who is probably not in the best frame of mind having had that phone call. And that's on the side that parent is 100% there, present and supportive of the child. If the parent's like, oh, this is the 90 millionth phone call I've had this week, this just tops it off, but actually isn't going to be around or isn't actually wanting to deal with anymore, it might not even get a desired effect that they even mention the phone call to the child, because they've had so much during the week.
There's sometimes when I've had those calls, and don't get me wrong, there was a hell of a lot of times I got it wrong, massively wrong, because especially when I was early in teaching and the power got to my head and the dynamic between me and the parent, they were really subservient to me and I got so there was a period where I was getting it wrong and I felt I was telling the parent off and making the parent feel bad for being a bad parent. Well, I was, your child is behaving like this. What are you doing about it? As if, like, oh, well, then what are you doing about it, Racheal Smith?
Quite.
So, do you see what I mean? So it's telling the parent off at the same time. And if they have intergenerational issues with school and their own baggage from having gone to school.
Yeah, it just, I always think there's a period of reflection before you make that phone call home and check who else has phoned home that week. Because actually, if it's already escalated to a form tutor, head of year, it's gone to the key person who's with that supporting that child, you might be better off having those conversations and allowing them to talk you through maybe managing the situation better for yourself and the child, but also for them to be that key person for that parent, because also lots of phone calls home, lots of mixed messages. And it would be nice actually for some of those parents, when they're getting lots of phone calls, for some of those phone calls to actually be positive. Like how often did we pick the phone up and do positives? It seemed to be the easy remedy if it wasn't working, but you probably put a message in the diary if it's a good thing, rather than making that effort to phone.
So some of the best practice I've seen, because obviously I have the blessing and privilege to speak to professionals working in parent participation through our services, and I ironically claim to be mentoring them, and then they give me a good education in how to be a better teacher. Because some of the best practice I've heard is how they have a 5-to-1 ratio, like you would with a kid in a class. It's the ratio of how many positive to negative things you would say to a human being in order to maintain their self-esteem. And they're doing that with the parent. And I think I mean, it's hard because that's a lot of work, right? But still.
But it's nice to know that people actually are, or teachers are going above and beyond to do that. And I'd also say, what about early help services where they've actually got family workers, early support workers in schools, and they're actually utilising the relationship they've got with some of the harder to reach parents to actually break down some barriers between the classroom and home.
One of my favourite things was shared by you, Anna. But you shared it in our WhatsApp chat because we're sad.
Yeah. So you talking about the message home from the teacher, I'm assuming. Yeah, I just thought this was a really proactive way of considering where a child might be coming from at any one particular moment and why they might be acting out. So instead of sort of waiting to understand where that behavior is coming from or phoning to have the conversation, and I mean, that's even better than perhaps what I might have done in the past as a teacher, starting that conversation with the parent by saying, is there anything going on at home at the moment that might be causing this? I mean, that's a start. That's an empathetic beginning rather than saying your child's been hideous today. What are you doing about it? But this instance I just came up on social media for me, and I took a snapshot, was a class teacher who'd written home to all parents, essentially saying, if something's going on at home and your child might need a little more love or patience or tolerance on any one particular day, I don't need to know the details because obviously not everything needs to be shared. But if you just message the Class Dojo or equivalent, other platforms are available. If you message the Class Dojo or email me, handle with care that morning, then I know, and I can start from that position of empathy for the day rather than react to what is already reactive behavior from a child. And I just thought that was so beautiful because it's so simple. It takes no time on behalf of the parent, just a message, handle with care. The teacher already knows which pupil then that's going to be related to, and it takes a second to read it and then to put themselves in that position of empathy from the get-go. I just thought it was simplicity at its best and empathy at its best. Yeah.
And the opportunity, one of my favourite jobs was form tutor, to be fair, and you're the first thing they see at the first start of the day. So what that does is it empowers you to have the opportunity to show them that you care and ask if they're all right.
Yeah.
Which could make all the difference to the rest of the day. Whereas your first chat might have been something stupid like tuck your shirt in, which is completely irrelevant to the child that's just been through something horrible at home. Do you see what I mean? So I just thought that was really clever and easy to do and doesn't take work. It's just partnership at its simplest, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's working together to make sure a child's needs are met and that a child is seen, heard, and understood, which is all they normally want if there's any kind of acting out behaviour. Yeah.
Now, we've ended on a solution, and I think that's the right place to end, because get 3 teachers in a room talking about children's behaviour, and it can go on for hours. But I'm really glad that we've ended on not only a solution, but something simple that's really actionable, and it shouldn't be hard, and it shouldn't add to workload. And a simple thing like that can actually reduce workload because there's no phone call home later that day. There's no need to keep that child in for detention. There is no need to write the letter. Just one simple message and you get to avoid all of that other work.
Absolutely.
So incredible.
Or you get to send a quick message back saying, you know what, they did really well today.
Yeah. They do.
And we turn something that was potentially a negative scenario into a real win for everyone all round, just because it started from that moment of empathy.
And my empathy for the people watching this who are tired, because half term does still feel too far away. I appreciate that we've made it sound simple to fit that into your day, and we know it's still an extraordinary effort, and we celebrate you if you try it.
Yeah.
That's it. We've done it again. We've had another natter. Did you enjoy the natter, Sarah?
Yeah, it's always good to get together and have a chat about something.
It is. We've done nattering again. See you next week. We're waving again because we're not allowed. We're waving again.